Hello there, Gamerinos and Gamerinas. Welcome to UnicornStorm. This is Rady, and today I'm here with another nifty gaming gadget. This here is the Hyper Mega Pocket, a handheld gaming device from the Blaze Evercade series, more or less. It's compatible with pretty much all other Evercade games, same as all the other consoles and handhelds. But the Super Pocket series always comes preloaded with a selection of games, dependent on which version you got. The system itself is nothing new. It originally released in 2023, but the one I got now is the Rare Edition and the very first opportunity to play Banjo Kazooie on an Evercade system. Sadly, so far a standalone version hasn't been announced yet, so for the time being this game is stuck on a handheld screen. And that one doesn't allow for connection to a TV as other Evercade handhelds have done. When you open the box, you'll find inside the Super Pocket itself, as well as a USB-C charging cable and some booklets. The latter aren't all that much to talk of. Half of it is just an advert and the rest is the control layout. It's a shame because one aspect I very much appreciated with the Evercade games was the little booklet they bundled with each game or game collection. When you boot up the Super Pocket, you are greeted with the license agreement that you have to accept, or the system won't let you continue to the actual dashboard. Why are companies allowed to do this? To sell me a product, collect the money from me, and only after I've opened it and turned it on does it tell me about agreements and obligations I have to follow, or I'm retroactively not allowed to use the product I paid for. Your legal agreement means shit. You forced me to sign it at gunpoint. I'm not obligated to follow anything, so fuck off with your corporate bullshit. But when we finally arrive at the home screen, we have our little Rare game collection ready to play. This here is kind of like the Rare Replay for the Xbox or the Evercade's own Rare collection. But there are a few games we don't get in any of the other collections. There is some overlap, of course, and both Evercade collections are a lot smaller than the Xbox one, but only the two Evercade collections let you play Conker's Pocket Tales, originally released for the Game Boy Color. And only the Super Pocket has Battletoads in Battlemania, the Super Nintendo version that always gets ignored and overlooked. And I think this is the first time that this one got an official re-release. But yeah, the main selling point of this particular version, at least for Evercade enthusiasts, is Banjo Kazooie, now playable on a handheld. So let's check it out and go a bit more over the device while we're at it. For what it is, the Super Pocket fits well into my hands. It is a bit small, but I guess that's the whole point of it. My hands may be a bit close together, but it's not uncomfortable. As long as I only need to use the D-pad and the face buttons, like with most of the games in this collection, and most of the games on the Evercade, which are either 8 or 16-bit 2D games. So for those, the controls are perfectly suitable. But with Banjo, it's a different story. Using the D-pad for movement doesn't feel right. This game was made for an analog stick. Tomb Raider or Soul Reaver work better since they were made for digital 4-directional controls, but with N64 games it becomes immediately apparent that this isn't an optimal control method. It works surprisingly well, and maybe if I hadn't played Banjo before, I wouldn't mind that much. You can toggle sneaking and running with one of the back buttons, and they aren't all that comfortable to reach. They're just in a weird position, too low for my liking and, again, rather close together. Maybe they should have been offset a little, or maybe there should be somewhat of a protrusion on the back of the device where the back buttons could be placed more ergonomically. But I guess that would go against the handy design of the device. But with the way it is now, I often press the camera and action buttons simultaneously, so when I try to pull off a special move, I shift the camera around, or when I try to get a better look at something, I hit the tiptoe toggle and go into slow as sneak mode. And while we're at it, camera control is another aspect where you immediately notice that this game wasn't made for such a controller layout. Maybe it would work better if the face buttons behaved like the C buttons on the N64 controller, and the two camera buttons on the back take the role of A and B. Now I can't be sure of that, because while you can rebind your controls through the Evercade settings, this game is the only one in the whole collection where this isn't possible. You can't even open the Evercade overlay. So no key rebinding and no save states and whatnot. What a shame, this would have been really neat. But with all that said, again, the game plays surprisingly well. It runs smooth, the run toggle does its job well and makes the game perfectly playable with the D-pad, and you can also set the talent rod, arguably the most useful and important special move in the whole game, to toggle. So you don't have to hold down one of the back buttons the whole time just to move faster. So yeah, a pretty darn good way to enjoy Banjo Kazooie on the go. The only official way to enjoy Banjo Kazooie on the go. But whoa there, what is that? Music notes don't get saved. They don't stay collected. I was under the impression that this was based on the Xbox version of the game. The settings even refer to the replay version. But they brought that non-feature, that little awkwardness from the N64 back. This was a universally agreed upon improvement with the Xbox version, where once connected music notes stay collected after you leave the level. As I understand it, with all the different collectibles the game had to keep track of, especially when it came out, with not really any other collectathons out there, they just didn't have the ability to keep every single music note in the game's memory. Maybe because of too little RAM, which got later rectified with the expansion pack, or limited knowledge at the time. So you had to collect all 100 music notes in a level in one clean go, without dying, without leaving the level. Which in 2 instances could get a bit tedious. Maybe 3. I'm not even sure whether or not I actually dislike the decision here. It's actually pretty great to get the original experience back, just with smoother visuals and frame rate. And even on that small screen the visuals are pretty good. They're crisp, the colors look like they're supposed to, even though you can't really see that here. You can take the Super Pocket outside, and while it gets really hard to see anything in direct, bright sunlight, by just getting a bit of shade or tilting the handheld a bit, you do get a clear enough picture to be able to play outside. The sound is alright, though especially with louder or overlapping sound effects, it's not always perfect. I guess headphones are the way to go for that, and fortunately the device still has a headphone jack. Not that I would have expected otherwise from a retro console. In fact, not having one would have been a major point of critique for me. So yeah, a neat little gaming device. I'm a huge proponent of Blaze's efforts and the whole Evercade idea of bringing old games back in an easy to use format that's still fun to collect. It doesn't always work perfectly, they took some shortcuts with some games, but on a whole I think the whole concept is a net positive for game conservation, for letting new generations experience the great games of the past. That said, if you already have one of the Evercade handhelds and no issues with it, you don't really need that one here. 1 or 2 little games preloaded on the system don't really justify getting a whole new console in my eyes. But if you don't have an Evercade handheld, then this one is pretty good value, since it is compatible with all your Evercade games. So if you just want your Evercade games on the go, or want to get into this way of collecting retro games, you might want to pick up any one of the Super Pockets. And I think with Banjo and Battletoads, the rare edition is a pretty sweet deal. And with that, I'm off. You have yourselves an amazing day, this has been Rady, and I hope to see you again when I have another nifty gaming gadget.